Hello darlings, today is Thursday the 15th of February and tonight we're going to do the fog. You can't escape the fog. Actually living here in Yorkshire when you're on the moors, that's very true, you can't. But here we are. This beautiful, beautiful edition is my anniversary present from my husband, of course, and it is also from the 1980s. Yes, this beautiful book is from October the 1st, 1980. It was originally, though, in hardback. It was on the 1st of January 1975. So one more year, my darlings, and this book will be 50 years old. Can you believe that? Honestly, it's stunning. Yeah, it was written 1 year before I was born. And this is obvious, you know the story about what happened with my James collection. Well, my husband, not one to miss a trick, anniversary, birthdays, whatever, he helps, he finds, he hunts down, and he is slowly helping to find all the books that obviously went missing. Anyway, without further ado, I've written quite a few notes for you. I hope you're going to enjoy this book review. I have gone to great pains to not put too many spoilers in, although there will be some. I hope it doesn't detract from a cracking, wonderful review that you're going to get, and it also won't detract from the novel itself, which is an amazing book. You're going to love it. Anyway, without further ado, gosh, it's a foggy day. I can't help myself, honestly. I've got to get a pun in somewhere. Well, this is an absolute classic from 1975. Almost 50 years old. We start in the sleepy village of Wiltshire. Jessie Bundock, that's a Mrs. Jessie Bundock, is just starting to open up her grocery shop. She opens it every morning at precisely 8:30, and life is just starting to get going on this rather fateful morning. Two beautiful children, Clara and Freddie Gravies. They're the policeman's children, and they've come in to buy some sweeties with the pocket money they have earned by polishing their father's boots the day before. And just normal everyday things. The postman calls into the shop with an airmail letter from her son Andy, who is currently serving in the army. And Jessie sees to the children. She gives them some sweeties, some penny chews, which is quite classic. It's a classic thing that we children of the past used to go in and get penny chews with, like, you know, it was what we spent as pocket money on. Suddenly in the shop, Jessie starts to feel a little bit giddy, and she sort of collapses and lurches against the shop counter, and she puts her hand to her forehead as though she's got a really bad headache, and she starts feeling really alarmed about, I feel very giddy. I shouldn't be feeling like this. Oh my goodness, what's happening to me? And she hears this huge, really deep rumbling that gets steadily louder and louder, and it's coming from underneath her feet. And she's like, oh, what on earth is causing this? Oh my goodness. then the whole shop starts shaking and it's bouncing up and down. There's like tins and pockets and everything's flying off the shelves. I mean, it's ludicrous. And she thinks, oh my goodness, I've got to get out the shop. I've got to get out. The shop's going to collapse on me. So she charges towards the door, but the ground's moving so much that she's bouncing up and down, and she falls, and she ends up crawling towards the to the shop doorway, and she's on her knees and she's crawling slowly further and further forward, and then the window pane of the shop window that sort of like fractures and implodes, and then you look outside the shop while all this is going on, and there's the postman, and he's stood in the middle of the street holding onto his push bike, wondering what the hell is going on, and then this huge crack appears beneath his feet, and it snakes all the way along the high street, and then suddenly the ground just rips apart and opens up, and he disappears with his bike. And poor Freddie and Clara, they've only just gone and bought the sweets. God bless them, they didn't have time to eat the sweets, and they're hugging each other and they're hanging on to each other, and they're just transfixed and they don't know what to do, and then they disappear, and then Mrs. Thackeray is a little old lady that likes to call in and see Jessie, and they have a cup of tea together, and they just chat and talk about life and gossip and what do normal middle-aged old ladies do. They stand and gossip, don't they? And they have a cup of tea. It's very British. And then she's walking along the road, and then she disappears. And then Mr. Papworth, who has the butchers across the road, he looks across at Jessie. His face is absolutely massive panic. And then gone. The entire street just gone. There's nothing left. And she watches everything. She just goes poof. And they all go in the underground. And it's only 8:30 in the morning. What a way to start the day. Good grief. Guess what? Now we're going to meet the hero of the novel. Oh yeah, John Holman. Oh wow, what a guy. He's lean. He's mean. He's kind of keen. He's the guy that everybody wants to be. Yep, he's just driving his car, tootling along, going through the little sleepy village, and then all of a sudden, kaboom! He drives his car, not very far, and it lands in the hole in the ground. Poor guy, he was having a rough day. He'd been sleeping rough the night before. Just so you know, this guy is like the James Bond of Greenpeace. Good way to describe him. He works for the government, the British government, for the Ministry of Defence and the Department of the Environment. Yep. He's the green, keen, killing machine. Sorry, I just had to do it. Anyway, there he is, driving his car through the village when the earthquake happens. And both he and his car get swallowed up, obviously, just covered that. Somehow he manages to escape from his car. Don't know how he does it, but my God, this guy, yeah, nothing phases him. So he gets out of his car and is terrified that he's going to be crushed to death as though he was in a giant nutcracker. What descriptive words. Spurs him into action. He bounds from the car in 2 steps. Pew, pew. I'm so sorry. And he manages to grab a tree root. I mean, you know, of all the things sticking out the ground, grabs the tree root, swings from the tree root. Yes, lands on the other side, still holding on to the tree root. And he looks across from him and he sees a little girl. Well, that little girl's Clara, and she's on a very precarious ledge, right? You know, one step to the left and she's had it. Absolutely. Poor darling. Anyway, she's sort of like screwed up in a little ball and save me. Actually, I'd be bloody hysterical at this point if I were her. So how she's keeping it together, she's amazing. And he calls out to her and he manages to get over to her and he pulls her towards him, and he managed to communicate to her that she has to cling on to him. And just then, Holman notices a very strange movement at his feet, and he thinks it's just dust, you know, from the earthquake. And then it starts billowing up from below. It's like a fine mist, and it's slowly rising, in really slowly, really sluggishly, and it starts rising, and he notices that it's yellow, and it's got a slightly acidy smell to it. And they start coughing, and Clara starts whimpering again, and it starts to rise up, and it's just like twisting round them, you know, it's swirling, it's very sinister. And it starts to think, well, have we ruptured a gas main? But, you know, it's a bit strange because the gas is clear. Obviously it smells, but it's clear. It doesn't have like a yellow glowing tinge, ready brick style glow to it. You know, eat your porridge, get ready black glow. You wouldn't be wanting to eat this porridge, would you? Anyway, he starts to have an immense feeling of fear and terror and a massive great sense of foreboding. And he starts yelling for help. You know, he's really going, help, help, you know, we're down here, help, help. And he realises he needs to climb out of where he is, so he gets Clara onto his back and starts climbing. Anyway, back Surfside. Alright, the people on the surface above hear the cry for help, and the policeman, the dad of the two young children, who he thought were lost in the eruption, is lowered over the edge of the crack by a very stout rope which is tied to his waist. And he emerges 5 minutes later with his daughter, and he leaves her with the village doctor. He's bereft, he's crying, and he's, you know, tears are falling from his eyes, and he gives his daughter a kiss, and then he goes back to rescue John, who by now, unfortunately, John has lost his mind. He's a gibbering wreck. He's screaming, and he had to be restrained by 4 other villagers, big strapping blokes. And he had to be restrained by them because he wanted to run back and he wanted to throw himself back into the black depths. John has gone insane. Yeah. The rest of the villagers watch the mist rise from the hole. It's not billowing over the edges, but rising in a densely packed, steady column. Very unusual. Clouds don't normally do that, but hey, there we are. The centre of which seemed to glow faintly. Or was it merely the strong sunshine? Because it was a beautiful day. Well, it was a beautiful day until this happened. Yeah. and it just kept going, rising higher and into the air, and it formed a heavy yellowish cloud. It looked like the aftermath of a hydrogen bomb, only much smaller, kind of mushroomy shape. The lower column finally ending and joining the cloud in the sky. So it just like goes poof, and poodles off on its way. And it's soon forgotten when the wind blew it from the village, because they're more concerned about the fact that they no longer have a high street, and lots of people have just died. And this is the beginning of the terror that is the fog. Right. So, some of the more memorable parts of this novel. I'm trying not to spoil it for you, but I am going to give you some things to look out for, because they are brilliant. They are brilliantly dark and macabre, and some are just pure evil. Yes, they are. We'll start with the Reverend Martin Hurdle, who during the morning service takes it upon himself to urinate over his parishioners and the local congregation. A few hours earlier to that, he had been taking his morning walk and had unwittingly wandered into a dense, foggy, marshy patch and started to get a bit of a headache. Thought nothing more of it, walked out of the fog because he didn't like being in the fog, because it made him feel very uneasy. And then he goes back and does that. There we go. The next memorable part is the farmer, George Ross. To put too fine a word on it, he's eaten by his own herd of cows as they crush him to death beneath their hooves, having been sent mad by the fog. Yeah, they were not amused. I'm so sorry. I've really got to stop these puns. There is a poacher who decides to take revenge on a colonel and his wife and the staff with an axe. Yes, the cook gets it in the head and everybody ends up dead. Oh yeah, including the colonel. We move on. There is a private school. Schoolboys and the schoolmaster to me, John Cleese. I can't get the thought of John Cleese out of my head when I read about the schoolmaster. This particular scene with the schoolboys and the schoolmaster doing the PE. Oh my gosh, it's... If you've ever seen the film The Meaning of Life, and the one scene at the school where before they can hang their coat on a lower peg and before they write their letter home, if you've ever seen that film, you'll understand how my mind is processing what I'm reading. Honestly, it's a WTF moment. And the medicine ball, wow! I did not know you could do that with a medicine ball, but I stand corrected. You learn something new every day. And believe me, PE lessons will never be the same again. Ever. Yes. And that's what goes on in private schools. Yeah. I suppose only the ones that have actually entered the fog would end up knowing that, but you know, bizarre. We end up John's girlfriend Casey, who's a good egg. She's with John when they bump into the private school bus and the boys that are on it, and they all get enveloped in the fog. And John has like a prickle of a memory, but he can't quite put his finger on it, what it is, and it just feels really uneasy. And they take the bus driver to the local police station and to report the accident because the bus has crashed. And it's at that point that all the children get infected with the fog and the teacher gets infected with the fog. Amazingly, John doesn't get infected with it again because he's already been previously infected from it and he has recovered. But this is where Casey ends up getting quite poorly with it, and she goes off her nut and ends up trying to kill John and has a massive fight with her father, but I'm not going to spoil it for you because it's quite a good bit. It's a very good bit. We're moving on. We have Herbert Brown and his pigeons, and this scene with the pigeons make Daphne du Maurier's The Birds look tame. Yeah, absolutely. Flying feathers. This is fluffing terrible. What those pigeons do. I think they want to put poor Herbert in a pie. Yeah, I do. Then we'll move on to Edward Smallwood, who works for the Midland Bank. So strange, but when I was a little girl, I used to be a member of the Midland Bank. Yeah. Just, you know, it's a little flashback to something in my past, and it just made me think, oh my goodness, I used to be that, you know. Yeah, I remembered stuff from years ago because I've read this book years and years and years ago. It's a long time since I've read it, actually physically sat down and read it. I've listened to it in audio tape loads and loads of times because of the type of job that I do. I don't always have time to physically sit down and pick up a book, but I have a lot of time where I can be working and listening to an audio tape, which is something that I thoroughly enjoy doing. And just the Midland Bank thing, and it just made me smile. Anyway, Edward Smallwood and the unfortunate butt-kicking events. It's just so funny. Yes, you imagine poor, meek, mild Edward walking down the street kicking everybody on the backside. It's so British. It's so funny. Going from the funny to the desperate and despairing, we have Mavis Evers and the Bournemouth mass suicide by drowning. Oh my good Lord. Is that not as cinematic as it gets for mass suicide and mass deaths? Wow. Yeah, the Bournemouth scene is just brutal. Absolutely brutal. Moving on. Captain Joe Enard, the Boeing 747 and the GPO tower. Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, just wait until you read that bit. Poor Kevin. Poor Kevin. The general public around about this point are starting to show a little bit of panic, you know. We've gone from mildly upset to miffed to peeved to, oh, we're feeling a little bit panicked now. Yes. Are we under attack from Russia or China? Why is America so cross with us and becoming so hostile? Are they worrying if this catastrophe will spread? I don't know. The Ministry of Defence and the government are trying to locate the fog. Is it a sentient being? Capable? A rudimentary thought? Is it a monster? Who created it and why? And what was its purpose? We meet Mrs. Janet Halstead, the principal medical officer, who has a team with her who are trying to solve the mystery of the fog. And John finds himself under the Official Secrets Act. Oh, if you ever find yourself in that situation, certainly keep it quiet. The fog seems to be growing. Yes, it's feeding, if you like. It's a mile wide and a mile high. Is pollution feeding it? Casey, John's girlfriend, has been, obviously I told you she got infected with it, and she's in hospital receiving treatment of blood transfusions and radiation therapy. We hope it works. Really do, because Casey's she's really, really nice. She's very vulnerable and she leans on John for so much. She loves him, and she knows that without him in her life she'd be completely lost. So yeah, I can relate to that. So here we are. Casey's getting treatment. John's cured. He's the only one that seems to be immune to it. And the government are certainly not wanting to let him go, because I think they've got other plans for him. I really do. Anyway, here we are, looking for a way to kill the fog. It reappears in all the places in the world. Where would you think it would reappear? Winchester Cathedral, of course. You know, whenever you've lost the fog, where are you going to go and look for it? Winchester. John finds it there, glowing, and he tries to get closer to it because he's supposed to take a little bit out of the middle with this thing that looks as though it's a cross between a Henry vacuum cleaner and the power pack that the Ghostbusters had. I mean, who are you going to call? Dustbusters. Yeah, that's it. It's a combination of the two. Anyway, while he's trying to do this, one of the congregation of the Hallelujah, Hallelujah goes a little bit berserk and beats the ever-loving snot out of John, thus thwarting his plan on getting a little bit of the nucleus. Yeah, with his super-duper vacuum cleaner. Never mind. Not everything is meant to happen the right way first time. That is what we're finding out very quickly. From page 194 onwards, we're sort of back in London now. And the fog returns and all hell breaks loose. You know, you think, my goodness me, has everything not suffered enough? Hold my beer. I haven't even begun to kick it yet. Oh yeah, it's all going to go on tonight. Yes, the maddening will begin. Now please. I used to think it's always bloody London that everything happens to. Nothing ever happens up here in Huddersfield. It never does. But now actually as an adult I'm rather pleased and thankful that it didn't happen up here. Yes, southern London, you can have it all. Up north, no. We just want to be peaceful, quiet and not attacked. Yes. There is a poor father who has to give his entire family sleeping tablets. Then he writes on his daughter's chalkboard, 5 in the house, sleeping tablets taken, please send help, because what he thinks is that I am going to get my family to sleep through this, because otherwise the fog's going to send them all mad. And what happens if they all stay normal and it's me that flips out and I'm the one that's responsible for offing them? I'd never be able to live with myself. So off they go, take the sleeping tablets, job done. Yeah, let's hope somebody finds them in time. One of my more favourite parts, yes, we're getting to it. Irma Bidmead, the little 73-year-old lady who loves cats, loves them so much that she gets all the strays to follow her. Yeah, and then she has them rounded up with somebody who works for the local government. I think he works for the local hospital actually, and they round all the cats up and they take these strays away. That's as far as we'll go with that. I don't want to upset animal people. No. Anyway, the revenge of Kitty Galore. Yes, her 13 pet cats don't want kippers that morning. Oh no, they want something far sweeter. Yum, yum, here it comes. Yeah, I bet you can imagine what happens to poor old Irma. Go again, Granny. One of the funniest, I would say, dark humour time. Yeah, definitely dark humour time. Is the scene with the Hare Krishnas. Oh my goodness me. Yes, the Hare Krishnas full on We Bring You Peace and Love Brigade. Oh yes, with a war chant of, yeah, I thought this one I backed. Thank you, Mark Steele. The inspiration came from your Salvation Army chant. We're hard, we're mean, we bang a tambourine. Oh yes, it's the Hare of Krishnas. Here they are, yelling, welcome, brother. Today is the beginning. Join us. John's like, oh, I really need this like a hole in the head. Oh, the poor man. I mean, he's trying to get through London. He's trying to get to the secret government bunker. They're hatching a plan to get rid of the fog. You know, do whatever it takes to get rid of it. And the Happy Clappy Brigade come along, rattling their tambourine. Oh yeah. You know, goodness me. They're all, yeah, savage. Absolutely beyond savage. And if you dare try to escape, they will break your back. Oh yes. Not good. Not a good look, Hare Krishnas. No. So, yes, he manages to wriggle out of brotherly love. Kenny Everett, to all those out there that know him. Yeah. He manages to get away from him by smacking him in the face. Yeah. Oh wow, does he just like do a whack a pow and gets away. And then he manages to get, I don't know how he does it, but he just pegs it, man. He absolutely bloody pegs it. And he runs like the clappers to get to the government underground bunker. And there he finds out the plan to basically eliminate the fog. They plan to trap the fog in the Blackwall Tunnel. And it fails, so they end up blowing up a local gas storage plant just outside the Blackwall Tunnel. And we are left wondering if the fog was destroyed in the explosion and what will become of the London citizens. Final scene in the book. a plane passes overhead, spraying the sleeping potion over the citizens of London, so that they're going to drift off to sleep. And the government are hoping that whilst they're asleep, they will be able to find a cure, and that somehow some kind of normality will ensue once more in around in London, basically. So that's the plan. Send the citizens to sleep, find a cure, and then administer the cure, and try to save as many as we can. Obviously, we know that some we won't be able to save, but as the government says, that's life. What can I love James. I love his books. I love the way that he writes them. He's got a very devil-may-care attitude to his characters, to his writing. He's just a lot of fun. It really is. It's very much a book of its time. Lots of violence, lots of dark humour, sex. Good grief, it's like they're like rabbits, man. God, I don't know. It's quite an apocalyptic novel, and we're left with a lot of uncertainty of what is going to happen to everybody. Will they ever wake up? And if they do, what are they going to wake up to? That is your ending. That's the ultimate part, the ultimate ending of the novel. And I think it's a brilliant ending. It's beautiful, because it's up to you, the reader, to make up your mind about what happens. I hope that they all wake up. I hope that there's a cure. What they're going to find when they wake up, good grief, it's going to profoundly change their lives. It's like I was saying, James is certainly the master of suspense and horror. And he certainly knows the ultimate terror is us. And and if given the right circumstances, we as humans will willingly do to each other, given half a chance. Our ability to go to the lowest depths of depravity is breathtaking. 10 out of 10. Yeah, it's an absolute must read. This book is, like I say, it's almost 50 years old, and it still packs a hell of a punch. I haven't really ever found another writer quite like James, and I don't think I ever will. He was so unique, and I know a lot of people try to pigeonhole him, but you can't do that because he's so different. His books are so different. He's got a beautiful way of using the English language. He's so descriptive. He's got one of the most wickedest sense of humours I've ever come across. And I really get the guy. I really, really understand him. He's just so unpredictable. And that's what I love about him, because no two books are ever the same. No two characters are ever the same. And for someone to constantly be putting out belter after belter of books, each one, I dare I say, getting better than the last one. And, at some point, I really miss him. As a writer, I really, really miss him. And he was taken from us way too soon. Honestly, he's such a good man. He's such a good writer. And if you've not read this book, what are you doing? Get on with it. Just don't read it on a foggy day. Alright? And on this note, I will say, happy readings, darlings, and enjoy. Take care of yourselves, seriously, and I'll be back with who knows what. It could be another James novel, it might be something completely different. But whatever it is, we're going to have a lot of fun. Good night, darlings, and if you like what I do, give me a thumbs up, and if you really like what I do, you can always give me a subscription and follow. Good night, my darlings.